This is a lecture on Duncan Mercredi's This City is Red, and I apologize for my pronunciation of his surname. I have a very Anglo tongue. So these are the objectives. Transcription of the poem. This poem is unpublished, so I've transcribed it from his reading at the Winnipeg Indigenous, I think it was a writers' festival. It is the link in Moodle that you follow to hear him read the poem. Then I want to consider just a few technical aspects of this poem. This poem is filled with technical aspects. I also, of course, want to consider tempo because this is your upcoming assignment, and of course, consider the content of the poem. I apologize for tempo being crooked. I don't know what I've done there. I also want to point out Winnipeg is a city filled with murals. So you're looking at a mural of the prophet of the Métis people, Louis Riel. I have transcribed This City is Red. I've done it to the best of my abilities. I feel that I may have misrepresented maybe one or two words. I'm not exactly sure. If I have, I apologize to the poet Duncan Mercredi, and I have done the best that I could. So here is a transcription of the poem. So please, after you have listened to it, read this and maybe consider listening to it and reading along with it. If you notice where I have made any errors in my transcription, please feel free to email me and I will correct them. And so a few technical aspects of this poem, and I'm only going over a few. Obviously, what's going to stand out right away is the repetition of "This city is red." There's a repetition of various words and their endings. Of course, assonance, consonants, alliteration, repetition, of course, of the refrain. Right here, there is a overwhelming repetition in ing ending words. Also in other endings. So I pulled out just these two lines completely at random to consider just some technical aspects of them. So we're looking at, of course, that ing ending, but also ing or n endings. They can often sound very similar. So we're looking at watching, vain, again, then. And as well as in these two lines, we're looking at D's, liquid, filled, blood, emptied. Um, of course, an L sound is repeating, a kind of soft I sounds repeating, a hard E sound, and needle, vein, emptied, vein not so much, is a bit softer, vein again actually is more of a rhyme. So we're looking at like an end rhyme here. And again, this is an unpublished poem, so I don't know if it's an internal rhyme or an end rhyme. The way I've transcribed it, it appears to be an end rhyme. It doesn't mean it really is, so please forgive me. So I'm just like pointing out a few technical issues that of course are incredibly abundant in this piece. Because your upcoming assignment is about tempo, you should consider the tempo of this poem, like how it's moving. Uh, he pushes us along, and I feel like at moments he's also pulling us, almost like we need to keep up with him. And I feel like many of us fall behind, and then he pushes us and pulls us, and it's an incredibly organic, fluid, beautiful piece of work. And it's, I think, just an absolutely gorgeous example of how tempo can work with meaning, with content, with rhythm, and with repetition. The meaning of this, and I am not going to do this justice, but if we just consider the content, this is a poem about the Indigenous people in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Um, it is clear the poet knows this city, and he knows it from a perspective that belongs solely to his own race and people. I think that it's an unusual poem because it forces you into quite possibly a different perspective. If you don't know the city, you're also grappling with that. And I think that it can be quite a unique introduction to the city of Winnipeg. I think the content is difficult because it is talking about, young Indigenous women who may be prostitutes for various reasons. It's talking about young Indigenous men that may be feared for various reasons. And it's also talking about the invisibility of the Indigenous people, I really believe, across Canada, particularly, and as he points out, during the daylight hours. Um, I think that much of this is hard to access, and it is. Um, Last year, I taught Tanya Talega's The Seven Fallen Feathers, which is about the deaths of young Native students in Thunder Bay, Ontario. And it is, as you can imagine, a difficult book. I feel in some ways similar to with this poem. It is a difficult poem, but like Talega's book, I think it can be very rewarding. And I think it rewards readers on various levels. And I'm going to say this because I think this is something that is no longer understood about knowledge or about education. To learn something is not comfortable. If you are learning something, you are often going to be in a state of discomfort. And mostly, I think, because education can push boundaries and it can push you out of what you think you know about the world and how you understand it. So I understand that this can be a difficult poem for you. I'm also telling you it can be a very rewarding poem on various levels. The technical aspects of it are astounding. The length of it is exciting. Duncan Mercredi's reading of it is beautiful. I think it is always timely. I think it can be quite pertinent at our historical moment right now because we are involved in a pandemic, that we are in North America facing so many race issues in the United States and in Canada, and also other issues regarding hashtag Me Too, hashtag Time's Up movements. So I think that this can, if we look at these things as exciting, as breaking down boundaries, as trying to address things that may have been ignored, then this can be an opportunity for all of us. I'm going to, of course, disclose, given my own background as a Métis woman who grew up in a very working class, um, poor environment, I am drawn to working class and itinerant background poems of Indigenous people. I find this work, of course, indispensable, necessary, and profound. And I hope that if the content is difficult for you, remember the technical aspects have so much to teach you. And if you can't bear the content now, maybe you can look at it in a week, 2 weeks, or a month. But the technical aspects are so rich, so varied. His word choice, that beautiful repetition of "this city is red," and things that follow that are just so welcoming. Even though I know it's a difficult poem, it is a welcoming poem. It is, I think, a really wonderful introduction to the beauty of Winnipeg in all of its nuances, in all of its history. And it is what I appreciate about the poet is his desire to not look away. And I find that brave. So, Winnipeg is a city of murals. I pointed out the mural of the prophet of the Métis people, Louis Riel, and here are some other murals. If you're interested, or perhaps you know Winnipeg much more than I do, I have actually only been there once. You may be far more familiar with these than I am. I was looking at it over the past week as I was making notes for these lectures, and it's quite a vibrant, very exciting musical, artistic city, and uh, it's in the province of the Métis, and part of that river where in the settlement, the Red River settlement, where the Métis people began. So I find it quite invigorating, quite exciting. So that concludes this lecture. I'm trying to keep the lectures 15 minutes or shorter. If there's any other questions you have or any concerns, please, of course, email me. If you want to look at the content in a deeper way, please let me know, and I will certainly try to carve us out some space to do that. In the meantime, I hope that you enjoyed this poem as much as I did. It's honestly one of my favorite poems by just an incredible, incredible poet. Okay, thank you very much.